All right, today we're going to cover ratios and proportions. This doesn't fit into geometry of triangles right now, but these skills are crucial for the rest of the chapter. So this is going to set us up so that we can be successful the rest of the chapter. Our learning target is I can set up and solve a proportion. You're going to hear me mention two different terms today, ratio and a proportion, and they're directly related. So we're going to start with a ratio. What is a ratio? A ratio is a comparison of two or more quantities. So we're simply comparing something to another. There are three ways to represent a ratio. The first one is what we're going to use. It's A over B, a number over another number. You'll also see it written sometimes as A colon B. And it is not pronounced. The way that you would express that is A to B. And that's what you would find, in a text. Ratios can be and should be simplified. So, common use of a ratio. So these days we actually hear advertisements on the radio for schools. And one of the things that they brag about for schools is their teacher to student ratio. Now the goal is to have a very few students per teacher. So you'll hear our ratio from teacher to student is 1 to 5. That means for every one teacher we have in the building, there are only 5 students. It could be stated the other way, 5 to 1. Our student to teacher ratio is 5 to 1. So the order matters. You almost explain what each value means before you give the number. So in this example, we're going to just set up some ratios. A music store has 40 trumpets, 39 clarinets, 24 violins, 51 flutes, and 16 trombones in stock. Write a ratio in simplest form. That means reduce, just like you would any fraction. So trumpets to violins. We have 40 trumpets, so I need to list that first. And the music store has 24 violins. So that right there is a ratio. Now it is not a simplified ratio. So I can break this down. I'm going to figure out what is the largest number that goes into both 40 and 24. Well, 8 goes into 45 times. 8 goes into 24 3 times. So the trumpets to violins ratio is 5 to 3. Now let's say they had said violins to trumpets, it would be flipped over as 3 to 5. So now we move on to flutes and clarinets. We have 51 flutes over 39 clarinets. Now we need to reduce this. Now you can go through the process. I'm going to show you a trick on your calculator, even though some of you won't have a calculator like this to use. But 51 over 39, I put that in my calculator and then I find that it's a decimal. What you can do is go to math and turn it into a fraction, and it will automatically reduce it to 17 over 13. All right. Now, ways around that. Just start, dividing out numbers, 51, 39. I look at 39 and I know that 3 is going to go into there. So if I divide them both by 3, 39 divided by 3, 13. All right, so now trombones to trumpets is going to be trombones 16, trumpets 40. Again, I see 16. I know that 2 goes in there, but there's probably a bigger number. 4 goes in there. Let's check, is there a bigger number? Yes, 8 goes in there. 8 goes into 16 twice. 8 goes into 40 5 times, so it's 2 to 5. Now, violins to total instruments. If I read through this again, I find 24 violins, but then the ratio to total trumpets I don't have a value for. How would I figure out total instruments? How many instruments do they have? Well, I'm going to go through and I'm going to add up all that they have. 40 plus 39 plus 24 plus 50, 1 plus 16 is 170. I can try dividing those by 2, so I get 24 divided by 2, 12, 170 divided by 2, 85. I think I can reduce it farther than that. Let's try a bigger number that goes into 24 divided by 8, 3 times. 170 divided by 8. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try 12. 24 divided by 12, 2. 170 divided by 12. Nope, didn't work. Let's just go with 2. So 2 goes in there 12 times. 2 goes into 170, 85. That works there. All right, so we're going to skip over to a proportion. Now, proportions are what we're going to see most of the time. So a proportion is an equation. It's an equation that states 2 ratios are equal. A proportion is written as something over something, so A over B, is equal to C over D. The cross product property is how we're going to get around this. You have learned this before. I think teachers sometimes use it or refer to it as the butterfly method. That means we're going to cross through the equal sign and multiply straight across. A times D equals B times C. AD equals CB. And that's what we're going to do down here. I'm going to skip around and go through a couple of these, but we have a ratio equal to a ratio. We cross multiply. Now, 2 times x gives us 2x. 4 times 7 gives us 28. We're just going to solve for x now by dividing by 2. X is equal to 14. Pretty simple. Cross multiply here through the middle. 10 times x is 10x. Equals 19 times 12, 228, divided by 10, x equals 22.8. So that's the easiest form that you're going to see. But take a look at 13 and 14. This is very, very important. Okay? 13. When I cross multiply, I always do the x's first. I'm going to multiply 19 times x minus 1. Whenever you have an x with something with it, you have to include a parenthesis. We have x, 19 times x minus 1 is equal to, I cross multiply here, 6 times 13, 78. Now, second thing we need to remember. When we do this, we have to multiply the 19 times the x and the 1, the distributive property. 19x minus 19 equals 78. 78 add 19 to both sides. 78 plus 19. 19x equals 97 divided by 19. X is equal to 5.1. You will see some decimals here today. We're not going to do any like 17 or 18. Or no, excuse me, we are. We're not going to do 18 or 20. 19 or 20. So let's try these. This one, the only difference is here is we're going to have 2 sets of parentheses. I multiply 3 times the quantity x minus 11. That is going to be equal to 18 times the quantity x minus 20. Now I have to distribute. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 11 is negative 33 equals 18x minus 18, 360. Okay. Now from there, we'll solve, subtract 3x, negative 33 equals 15x minus 360, add 360 to both sides. 360, I get 327 equals 15x. Divide by 15, x equals 21.8. All right, so cross multiply, we multiply through the equal sign at a diagonal, and then make sure when you're multiplying by x with another number attached to it, We used parentheses followed by the distributive property.